Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and welcome to 2018. I hope your year is going better than mine so far, because I've been pretty much sick since the year has started. Pretty much sick before the year even started. So yeah, hasn't really been easy for me. But anyway, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Rebel Galaxy and Star Wars. You guys have been wondering what do these two things have in common if you haven't really been following the news of some stuff that was revealed earlier this year. And for starters, let's talk about Rebel Galaxy a little bit to get people into the right mindset of what Rebel Galaxy is and why it is relevant to today's video. So Rebel Galaxy is actually a game that I've played quite a while ago. I played it on the PC. Since then it has become available on consoles. At least it's available on PS4. I'm not sure if it's available on other platforms. As a matter of fact, I would really like to see it come to Switch. Like, that would be really cool, but I'm not sure if that is going to be a thing or not. I highly doubt it at this point. But anyway, this is a game that was developed by a company called Double Damage, and I had a lot of fun with this game. And to give you guys a brief explanation of what the game is about, it is very much a less complicated version of Elite Dangerous in a way, because Elite Dangerous has got all of the simulation elements. You have to really be careful how you fly your ship. You have to learn how to dock and do all of these crazy simulation aspect things, whereas in Rebel Galaxy things are a lot simpler. You will approach a space station, you will hold the X button, then you automatically dock. There's not even an animation for it. It's just like, boom, you're in the station. You get out of the station, you go about your business, you do whatever the hell you want, but it is very much an open world game as well, a sandbox game, so to speak, where you can do the typical stuff that you would expect from a space game, where you can go do space trucking, you can do mining, you can do combat. And speaking of combat, the combat actually reminds me a little bit of Assassin's Creed Black Flag ship combat, you know, the broadsides and stuff like that. And you guys are wondering, but how would that work in a 3D environment, like with your ship going up and down? And that's the thing about Rebel Galaxy. You actually only pilot capital ships. So in order to kind of simplify the way that the game works, the developers chose to not really include a Z-axis that the player can control. So your ship just moves into planes. Basically, you have the X-plane, the Y-plane, nothing for height. So your ship is constantly at the same height. All the space stations will be at that height. There are fighters that like fly around you and stuff, but that's not something that you can personally do. Regardless of all that, I can assure you that the combat is still extremely satisfying. The way it works is basically you're going to get turrets that will enable you to fire against these ships that fly around you and stuff, whilst you will always be piloting a more bulky type of spaceship, which was pretty cool, trust me. If you haven't played it yet, and you can get your hands on a demo, I don't know if there's a demo to this game, but either way, I do have a video on this game. I'm going to link it in a comment or in the description or something if you guys want to see my initial impressions when I originally played the game. So yeah, the combat, you got the broadsides combat, you had tons of ship customizations, you had a couple of different ships that you could have. You would have tractor beams to pull in cargo. Like I said, you could do mining runs, you can do side quests if you wanted to, and those side quests could include combat, mining, retrieval of goods. You could also do the space trucking thing, buying low, selling high on different space stations. So there was a lot of things that you could do here. Now, one of the things that this game actually did arguably better than Elite Dangerous is that it has a single player narrative, which is, if you go to forums, if you go to Reddit, if you go anywhere, that's one of the biggest complaints about Elite Dangerous, is that it doesn't really have like a dedicated narrative that's in your face. Whereas this game does. So you can actually do proper quests that will have a storyline to it. I'm not exactly sure what happens if you actually finish the storyline. I'm assuming you would still be able to roam the sandbox and do whatever the hell you want, because I never got around to actually finishing the game, if I'm being completely honest. But I did enjoy it quite a bit. Another interesting thing that Rebel Galaxy did that I don't see in Elite Dangerous, you could actually hail different ships. So if you would come across a trading ship, you would be able to hail them and possibly trade goods with them, which I always thought that was really cool. You would actually get like a screen where you would speak with the other entity. And not only you could trade, like I mentioned, but you could also threaten them. You could say, give me your cargo or I'll kill you, or you could just straight up kill them and take the cargo afterwards. So it had a couple of more interactions and a couple of interesting aspects to it that I've really enjoyed when I played this game. And now you guys wonder, okay, Rurikhan, you've gave us a recap on what Rebel Galaxy is about. Why is it important for today's video? Well, take a look at this game. So this is a pitch that Double Damage did to Electronic Arts back in 2016, and they've only recently released this video. I'm not exactly sure, maybe there was an NDA or something where they couldn't release the materials that they created for that presentation on EA. I don't know why they only released this now, but obviously as a fan of Rebel Galaxy, seeing the team behind Rebel Galaxy working on a Star Wars game was something that I was like instantly, oh my god, why didn't this happen? This would have been so good. Because, like, you guys need to understand, one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars, like I've mentioned on a couple of videos already, is actually the space battles. I mean, sure, I like a good lightsaber fight as much as the next guy, but to me, what really gets me going is the big space battles where they're fighting against big space stations, which is always one of the main complaints that I would have about the prequels, is that there are so many goddamn spaceships in those battles that it's very hard for you to actually make out what is happening in those space fights. So I like myself a good space dogfight with the Star Wars themes, particularly if it involves the Millennium Falcon kicking ass, like you can see in this video right here. That is something that I'm very much into. Now, they pitched this game to EA, and a couple of interesting things that I've noticed from this video is that they changed the combat from Rebel Galaxy, although you will see that a lot of UI elements are the same that you would have in Rebel Galaxy. Like on the top right hand side, you can see those bars. Those are basically for managing your speed and your boost. So you would have like 25% speed, 50, 75, 100% speed, and then you would have a boost that would automatically recharge that you could use to kind of like give your ship a bit of a maneuverability boost. So it seems that that is working the same way in this demo. But again, this was just like a pitch, so this is something that they would probably change. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how the UI works. Then on the bottom left-hand side, you can see a radar, which is not really very adequate for this version of the game because, like I said, the previous game would pretty much take place almost on only one plane, right? Because you don't have a Z-axis, so therefore there's no need for you to actually have a three-dimensional radar because your targets are either going to be in front of you, behind you, or somewhere off to the sides. They're never going to be above you or below you. However, in here, they've actually added a Z-axis to the combat, so your ships can actually go up and down, which makes a lot more sense because in Star Wars, the ships are much more agile than like the frigate type, the capital ships that you would be flying in Rebel Galaxy. And with the addition of the Z-axis, I feel that the radar is something they would have to change. But anyways, around the radar, you would have your shield and your hull, which is the only things you have to protect yourself before you actually start taking serious damage to your ship. You can see the Millennium Falcon navigate and just shoot a bunch of TIE fighters as they are defending a ship. And it's like, this particular video, this pitch, is mostly about showcasing the combat, what it could look like, which in my opinion looks pretty damn good. A little bit simplistic. It is much more arcadey than maybe some people would like, because I know a lot of people, particularly since there's now some people on my channel that enjoy stuff like Elite Dangerous, that is much more sim-oriented. This is much more arcade-oriented. This is just like, oh yeah, grab my ship, shoot things, fly from third-person perspective, all of that jazz. That's what you would expect from something like this. This is kind of the pedigree of Double Damage with the stuff that they've done in Rebel Galaxy. But seeing it with the Star Wars skin, with the Star Wars assets, the sounds, the Star Destroyers coming in, the TIE fighters, there's even a moment where they swap ships, which I'm not sure if that could be a mechanic that they would implement in game. That would be really cool, because when I saw them swap the ships, I was like, oh man, this could actually, you could have, say, a couple of customized ships, and that you could like have your own little squadron type of dudes that could be either controlled by AI, potentially they could be controlled in multiplayer, and you could take control of these other ships. It just seems like it would be such a cool thing, you know? Like, because you'd be flying around in your Millennium Falcon, and then you're like, okay, I need a more agile ship, something to get in there, swap to an X-Wing, or maybe you would have different kinds of ships, like you could have the A-Wing, you could have maybe even custom ships, you know? There's a lot of potential for an idea like that, for them to potentially, well, I'm not going to say create new ships out of nothing, but maybe even have like a Corvette, the type of ship that rammed that that Star Destroyer in Rogue One. You guys remember that? That was awesome. But And maybe that ship could control more like the ships in Rebel Galaxy, where you would actually have the broadside cannons and stuff like that. I don't know, just thinking about it got me really excited. But unfortunately, the pitch was shut down. EA didn't want to get involved in this project. This was pitched back in 2016, so I believe EA at that point would be working on Battlefront 2. And most likely they're like, no, we have Starfighter mode, which is much better than this. But at least that's what I think. They thought they were probably also thinking, how can we monetize this? Because we know that EA has been evolving into really wanting to just like games as a service. And this, I think what Double Damage wanted to do was much more of a single player narrative driven experience, kind of like what they did in Rebel Galaxy. I mean, it pretty much is Rebel Galaxy with a Star Wars skin. But that was just the pitch demo. I would expect if the actual pitch was accepted by Electronic Arts, I would expect them to change a lot of things in that particular demo and to actually make it into its own game, change the UI around, change the worlds, make it look much more Star Wars-y and much more Rebel Galaxy-like. But one of the coolest things that I think about it, particularly once I saw the ship swapping and the way each of the ships handles, is like, just imagine having your own like squadron, you know, your own squadron of ships. Like I'm taking it up to 4 ships or so, and you could potentially have those be multiplayer by 4 other friends, and each of you would fly a different vessel from the Star Wars era. Maybe you could even bring in your own modified vessels into the same session as your friend. You could do like story missions. You would have side missions in the vein of Rebel Galaxy, so that you could like gain more upgrades and do specific stuff, and maybe even have mini stories that they could pick up from the expanded universe of Star Wars, which sure, it's not canon, but this game didn't need to be canon for me to enjoy it, if I'm being completely honest. So you could pick up amazing stories from the expanded universe, put those into the game, and just have like this Star Wars game that would have a lot of different missions. It would have a main narrative mission, which would probably interact with characters like Luke and Han and so on and so forth, but it would also interact with all of these other stories from the expanded universe. Put that all together into one experience that could be played by one player, solo with AI companions, and you could then swap between the ships, or 4-player co-op, or even 2-player co-op, 2 AIs, you know, have that kind of experience to it, and just enjoy that shared universe with your friends. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not go all the way with the Elite route, because I think that would probably be a little bit more than what Double Damage is ready to handle. But ultimately, just having that type of story, being able to actually communicate with other ships, you know, and maybe even try to, you know, disguise yourself as an Empire agent. Actually, maybe even be able to play from the Empire side as well. Be able to play either as a rebel or as the Empire, maybe even someone neutral. Just like the sheer potential of something like that had me really excited, because ultimately, like I've mentioned, the pitch was denied, which kind of really sucks. But ultimately, what I would like to get now is you guys' take on it. What do you guys think about it? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching this video. And man, if anybody from EA sees this and they're like, you know what, this might have actually been a good idea, please do it. Just get Double Damage and do it, please. When I saw this video, I was just like, dude. As a matter of fact, I might just stream some Rebel Galaxy, because it just kind of put me in the mood, you know. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.